one.
What's up? Elvis Blue
Myself off
Shoe.
the camera. How about you?
All right. What's up?
I don't know. It's Wednesday afternoon in Vancouver. Just finished up with a client. Looking forward to having a chat with you. That's about it. I'm working with this broken phone, so I'm trying so that I can see you and you can see me.
Hold on. Someone's banging on my door like crazy.
Oh.
And I'm waiting on a computer. Give me 2 seconds.
Sure.
Sorry about this.
No problem. Glad it's working. Hey guys.
Sorry.
Nope, no problem.
So good evening.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
It's 3 o'clock in Vancouver.
Right.
Good evening to you.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for
Much
asking.
appreciated. Okay. Your name?
My name is Renée Macdonald, and Westerly Handmade Shoes is my business, my pastime, my child.
All right. So we're going to get into some questions.
Great.
And then we could do the conversation.
Sure.
All right. What word or phrase do you overuse?
I don't know. Like, probably, actually, I don't know.
That's it.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know that I have a real go-to phrase.
Okay. What is your least favorite thing to do?
My least favorite thing to do. I should have an automatic answer for this. I don't really like to deal with money much. I'd rather that just took care of itself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I need to make a pause. Catherine, thank you for being on time. It's a joke from earlier.
Okay.
She gets it. She gets it.
Good.
All right. What is your most favorite thing to do?
Well, it depends on the season. At the moment, like all spring and early summer, I've just been loving being in my garden, kind of more than anything else.
What are you growing?
In the winter, when it's rainy, it's great to just tuck in at the studio and just mind my own business and make shoes. So it kind of depends on when you ask me. I also love just pedaling around. I live in a really beautiful city for bike riding, so that's a favorite way to pass a summer's day.
Yeah, I was talking to one of the guests that's listening in. I'm doing a bike ride protest in Brooklyn on Saturday.
Great. Where is
that?
That
Was pretty cool. I did last week. It was awesome.
Great.
Lots of wonderful people, lots of energy. It was great.
Where is this protest?
New York.
Oh,
I'm in New York.
Yeah.
So last week was Manhattan and the Bronx. Next Saturday, it's Brooklyn.
Amazing. A huge turnout, I would guess.
15K.
That's a big number. Yeah.
Yeah. It was wonderful. It was absolutely amazing. It was good. It was good.
Excellent.
Plus, I need to get in shape. That's probably more necessary than anything else. Anything else.
A lot of sitting around lately. Yeah. Too much
work is stressful.
Yeah.
What are you growing in your garden?
Well, I'm doing my best to grow anything edible, but the front yard is very shady, so I can grow like some peas and arugula earlier in the season. But on my sunny back deck, the tomatoes and are super happy, and I have an herb garden out there, and I'm growing some happy chard and got some beans coming up. So food, I like to grow food, and then also some like pretty flowers in between. But
I always joke with my friends about chard.
Yeah.
That's a white veggie.
That made me so. Well, it's called rainbow chard. It's for everybody.
What would your significant other like to change about you most?
So many things that I would talk less, and that would be the number one. Just like talk less. Yeah,
okay.
We're real opposites in that way. She likes a lot of quiet, and I'm just like all the time. Yeah. When I'm most relaxed, I'm talking. So, yeah, it's a challenge.
If you want to take a motorcycle ride across the country, who would you go with?
Well, I know a few people who ride a motorbike, but well, my partner would be a good choice. But she likes to ride a lot faster than I like. So I have a couple of friends that would probably go at a smoother pace for me. But I've got a few good options.
Okay. All right. If you were in a bar and a fight broke out, will your partner most likely get a gun or call the police?
Well, she would not get a gun, so I guess police would be, if those were the two options. Yeah.
Those are the options. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What makes you tick?
I don't know. I have an internal like drive that just is something. It's internal, and yet it's like outside of me. It's like not within my control. Yeah, I'm really motivated by, I don't know, there's just an internal drive. I'm going to come back to that one. I don't know what it is.
Okay. Handcuffs or scarves?
Cuts or scars?
Handcuffs or scarves?
Oh, scarves.
Okay. What irks you the most?
Not understanding where I stand with other people. Yeah, I like to have a clear relationship with people, and if there's like mixed messages and things going on, I find that frustrating. Yeah.
You gotta know where you stand.
Kinda, yeah. It's important.
Was that a problem for you earlier in your life when you were dating? Did you want to know that question? Did you want to know that question too soon, earlier in your life?
I guess it's always been a question. I think you asked me if it was when I was dating, and I don't think it's necessarily when I'm dating. Just in general. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, as a kid, I was always trying to like figure out what my place was, and it wasn't really always obvious to me. I was the youngest child and was really doubted on by my sisters, but also like not, like they would prefer if I would like leave them alone when they had their friends over, and I was always like trying to like find my spot. So yeah, I think when I was younger, I kind of struggled with like understanding like my place in the world, and then also my place socially.
Yeah, for me, it was similar. When I was young, 18, 19, I was a young Black Republican.
Was that normal in your crowd?
No. I'm from a working class Black neighborhood /poor.
Yeah.
I went to an all Black high school. I went to an all Black college.
Yeah.
College, less of a problem. But with my peers, the people I hung around, yeah, I was always into strange stuff compared to my friends.
Okay.
So I would always have to kind of explain or justify if I took a point of view or action. So yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So do you feel like you still like that's part of you trying to figure it out, or is that did you like figure it out and now everything is crystal clear?
Do you ever figure it out?
I don't think so. I was wondering if I was speaking with somebody who had. Yeah.
If you do speak to someone who has, you let me know. You
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah. I'll keep you informed.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I'm happy with where I am, but figured it out? No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Fair.
What sound makes you happiest?
I love waking up to the sound of roosters in the morning. It almost never happens in my life in the
I
last
was about to ask if you had those.
in the last like 30 years, but I grew up with that as a kid. And if I'm on a holiday, if I'm staying at somewhere and there's like a rooster crowing in the morning, it just like, I find it very comforting. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What sound bothers you the most?
What sound bothers me the most? I mean, I work with machines, but I really don't like mechanical noises. But probably in particular, the sound of traffic, like vehicles, is not a joyous thing for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it quiet.
Got
But
it.
talking all the time, but also quiet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Jeff just left us a comment on that. When you get my age, if you haven't figured it out yet, well, then you haven't figured it out. Exactly.
Yep.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
There's a few sort of strange things that I've always had a fascination with, like city planning. I don't know why that's of interest to me. I've never been one to be able to like envision myself like sticking it out through university. So some of the ideas that I had that I would have liked to have done in life, I just wasn't willing to put the time in school. So I just bypassed that. But yeah, city planning. My first job was at a library. I always kind of wanted to go back to working in a library again. So pretty different things than what I'm doing now.
Okay, very.
Yeah.
What?
But also a farmer. If I could be a farmer and not have those, I mean, farmers work so hard and
It's hard work.
Stability, it's a really hard gig. But if I could just like garden and farm without all the stress of keeping it floating, that would probably be my happiest thing to do.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing though, right? Once you turn this into a living, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So
Yeah.
yes, but gardening is very, very difficult. It's a lot of work.
Gardening.
Yes, gardening, farming,
yeah.
a lot of work.
Yeah, I think, it's a lot of work. And if you're just doing it small scale for your own personal use and enjoyment, it's a lot of work, but it's like the rewards are so, I think, in line with the effort you put in. Whereas farming is, in a larger scale, it's just a different animal. Yeah.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, I was a big time tomato grower.
Oh, cool.
And I'd only grow heirlooms. I wouldn't grow beefsteak, none of that regular stuff. And it was a lot.
Yeah.
I would check on them first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I'd check on them midday. Then I'd check on them at night when it was dark.
Good tomato daddy.
Yeah. And it was just a lot. Now I was able, I grew a lot. I was able to get a lot, but it was just work.
Uh-huh.
Just,
Were
and
they so
then
delicious though?
yes.
So delicious. Just
Eat
fresh
them
off
right off the vine.
Yeah.
Peel them off.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
What would you want on your tombstone?
Well, I am not sure I'm going to have a tombstone. Uh, so I think for me, it's probably more a matter of where I might want my ashes to be
Where would you want your ashes to be?
spread. Probably pretty close to where I grew up on Vancouver Island. I don't have a specific idea, but probably actually pretty close to my like family home growing up in Merville, BC.
Is your family home? Is your family still there?
No. My most of my family is still in like on the island in the town where we went to high school and did our grocery shopping and whatnot. But I grew up a little bit out of town, just at the base of the mountain. Really pretty spot. But the family house hasn't been in the family since I was 17.
Okay. All right. So you ready?
I'm ready.
We're done with the questions. You ready for the second part?
Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm not ready to be like spread over my family home just yet, but one day.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Now we get into the conversation about your journey.
Yeah.
So take us from high school to the different things that led you to making shoes.
Well, that's a pretty roundabout route. I mean, I didn't start making shoes. I didn't start even learning the trade until I was 34 or something.
You're telling the story backwards. We need to start from high school and work our way there.
Yes, sir. Okay, so I graduated from high school.
What kind of kid were you in high school?
One that didn't like to be in class much. Yeah. I had a lot of spare blocks. My grade 12 year was mostly composed of art classes, journalism, and I think I had had an English class and then spare blocks. So I really tried not to be at school as much as possible. It was like, I don't know, teenagehood is a tricky time. And there were other places I would have preferred to be. But I did graduate. And actually, when I found my report, my graduation status or whatever, a few years back, I was very surprised to see that I had actually done pretty well in school, considering I really didn't like being there at all. So yeah, I graduated, and then that was around the time that my family home was changing ownership. And so I kind of floated around a little bit between, I guess, my sisters and my mom's, and I moved into the Lower Mainland where Vancouver is located. I moved over here for a while, and I was like a drifter a little bit. And then at a certain point, I actually have always had really weak feet. And so all of the kind of like retail jobs, I was working in a bookstore and that kind of thing, I was finding that being on my feet was not really realistic for me. I was having a lot of pain from that. And so I ended up enrolling in a legal secretary training program. And I studied that for, I think it was a 9-month program. And then I spent the next few years working in law offices, which I did it for about 3 years. Within about 3 months, I was like, felt like my soul was getting sucked out of me, but I had borrowed some money to do the program. And so I wanted to pay that off and have a little bit of money to do some traveling with. So then I hit the road when I was 22 and headed to Europe, and then hitchhiked around there and went and spent, I think our last stop in Europe was in Greece. And then we took you could pay $100 at the time to get outside passage on a Mediterranean cruise ship that would take you to Israel. And so we got dropped in there. And
so who are you with? Your partner at the time?
I was with my pal, Anita. She was like one of my besties from high school. And she'd already been spending a few years traveling around, and we just went off on a little adventure and spent some time in Israel and India. And
wow.
Yeah. traveled around.
How long?
Backpacked, just a backpacker for years, I guess.
So just hostels and camp?
Hostels and I mean, actually in Tel Aviv we had an apartment for a bit, and yeah, just very loose.
So how long were you living the life?
I was kind of on the road. I mean, and then I went to Ireland and I settled in Ireland for a couple of years, but I was kind of away from Canada from about 1997 until 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great experience. Gave me a really different perspective on what you need and what's nice to have and what's a necessity. Yeah. I got married when I was living in Ireland. And that lasted for a while. We came back to Canada and bought a place on the West Coast, not too far from where I live now. And we were together for 9 years. So lived in Ireland, lived in Canada together, and did some pretty cool work at a place on Gabriola Island called The Haven, which is still around and does really interesting like personal development kind of courses. And so I worked as registrar there for a few years. And then when, this is a long story. I mean, I did tell you there's been a lot that has happened since high school to now. I am 44.
That's what the conversation is about.
Okay. So then when the marriage ended, then I moved to Vancouver and was still doing like office admin kind of work until I didn't want to anymore. And then I just took a bit of time off work. And during that time, I decided to go and try my hand at the shoemaking course.
So were you thinking about making shoes? Did you have a shoe fetish? I mean, how did?
I was really wanting to not be at a desk. And that was, I did a bit of waitressing here and there, but like I said, my feet have always, like working on my feet all day was never.
Yeah, and waitressing, I did that for 20 years.
Yeah.
I was a bartender, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's hard work. And
dealing with the general public like that is very hard.
It's very hard work. And if you're good at it, then it's hard work, but you're good at it. But I wasn't very good at it, and it was hard work. So I'm like, I could do something else. So then the only other thing that I really knew was office admin, and I just didn't want to sit at a desk anymore. And so I was really trying to think outside of the box about what else interested me. And I just heard about a shoemaking course, and I went and did it. It was 5 days long, and which is not very long to learn how to make a pair of shoes.
Where was it?
Sorry?
Where was it?
In Port Townsend in Washington State, which is across the border from where I live. So you didn't have that far to travel? Nope. Okay. And it was a 5-day intensive, so we got there and just like got into it. Shoe school. I think they're still around. Alan and Jane, if you're watching, hi. But yeah, I totally learned enough from them to go back home and with my little set of hand tools and a pair of lasts, and just started working away, making myself a pair of shoes every month just to like kind of get into the groove of it. And then okay, so yeah. When you were doing this every month, you were doing it by hand? Yeah, I had it was pretty much all by hand. Like even the stitching I was doing by hand. I didn't have any tools. I just wanted to like get into the, feeling my way around like the last, making the pattern. I had one little like tabletop belt sander, which was not ideal, but fine, that's what I had. And the shoes were like really basic. But I was like wearing them and like, look at my new shoes, all pleased with myself. That was the only like formal training that I have done. But then when I came back I asked Alan, the shoemaker who taught me how to make my first pair, how he went about because he's a master shoemaker. He's been making shoes for many years, and he said, you know, go and find yourself a job in shoes. If it's like retail, repair, get yourself in there and just stick to it. So I did that. I got a job working in shoe retail, and then I got a job working in repair at the Quick Cobbler here in Vancouver. It's an excellent shoe repair shop. There was as many of, I don't know, maybe like 14 people on staff. Wow. Yeah, it's a pretty cool large operation, and the my boss there, Ronald, is super skilled, knowledgeable, and also an excellent teacher. So I learned a lot about shoe repair and like the shop from him, like how to handle myself with machines and that kind of thing. Because I, having not had a really formal shoemaking education, I've really modeled my shop after a shoe repair shop, because that's where I spent all my time. I don't do a lot of repairs other than, you know, to Westerlies, but I mean, I actually only repair Westerlies, but that's just kind of like, that's the equipment that I'm familiar with. And so I set myself up that way when I decided it was time to just be full-time at Westerly. So yeah, I did the shoe repair job for about 5 years, and I launched Westerly in 2012. And
okay, so hold it. So you're doing this shoe repair for 5 years.
Yeah. And
you're still making shoes on the side.
I was just starting to take a couple of clients and doing that, on the side. And I was also, you know, at the beginning of that, I was like working at a restaurant, I was working at a shoe store, I was working at the shoe repair, and I was trying to get my own thing going all at the same time. So it was a really, really busy time. There was many years that I worked, you know, 6 or 7 days a week. I mean, I've kind of always worked 6 days a week since I started down this road, up until recently. And but yeah, there was years where I was pretty much seven days a week, getting up to an alarm and going out and doing whatever I needed to do to either like learn the trade or earn money so that I could learn the trade. So busy time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you are, let's talk about the machinery, getting a space, all of that stuff, because that takes a while. You don't just go from working for someone to where you are now.
You know, yeah, no, true. I started with a post sewing machine, which is what shoemakers tend to use for making the uppers. The upper is anything above the sole, and the bottoms are the sole. In very simple terms. So yeah, I started off with a post machine. My first studio space in Vancouver was 40 square feet, which was enough for a table, like a dining room table, and my post sewing machine. Oh no, that was before I even had the post sewing machine. At first it was just a table with some shelves. And then when I bought the machine, I'm like, well, I don't fit here anymore. And so then my friend and at the time sister-in-law was like, come on over to my studio, we've got space, we'll just make space for you. And so so I went up to a shared studio space. I've really been embraced by the artist community in Vancouver, and so all of my studios have been in a real like artist community. So there's this building that I work out of called 1000 Parker Street Studios, which is amazing. It's these like 100-year-old warehouses that have been used for all kinds of things over the years, but since 85 it's been mostly artists and small business in here. I'm currently in the woodworking wing, so it's a bit noisier and dustier than my previous spot, but
I bet
I feel very at home here. I didn't mention earlier that the house that I grew up in was never finished. My father built it and was always building it. And I'm used to being around like wood and wood dust. That's like nothing better than the smell of like fresh sawdust, right? So I'm happy where I am, but, and I also make a lot of noise and dust and all that kind of thing. So it works out really well. But so I moved into a shared studio. I think there were 6 of us in that space. Like I said, my partner's sister-in-law at the time. And that was just a great thing. And once I got too big for that spot, then we just shifted around and I created a larger space in that studio. And that's when I started ordering in all of my larger equipment, because I knew at that point that I wanted to just be full-time at Westerly. And then that worked out for a while. My studio mates were like super tolerant of like all the space that I took, but eventually it seemed to make more sense for me to move into my own space where I was a little less like there, like in everybody's way all the time. So I've been pretty fortunate in how that's all worked out over the years.
Same building?
Same building, just down the hall. Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So how big is the shop?
There's all sorts of interesting like kind of collaborations and crossovers that happen, because there's photographers, there's woodworkers, there's sculptors, there, you know, like printmakers, painters. Like there's just such an array of people in here.
So more people I want to have a conversation with.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of people in here there that are doing super interesting things. Metal workers, yeah, all kinds of goodies.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how big is your shop?
Well, so I just said I needed my own space, but I had my own space, which was about 540, 600, something like that, square feet for a couple years, and then decided that it would make more sense if I brought somebody in to share the space and help with the rent and that kind of thing. So I'm probably down to about, I don't know, 350 or something like that square feet. Okay. So it's not huge, but it's like,
as long as it works.
It works. And actually the way that I set it up now is better, because everything is more close at hand, which is great. I don't like spend my time wandering around wondering where I put something down. It's like now that I've been in the studio for a few years, I've got everything really dialed, so everything is kind of where I think it ought to be. So I naturally go to where a tool is resting rather than like trying to figure out what I did with it. Or like my old studio where I'd have to move one machine to get at a different machine, you know, like it. So this is working out good. Yeah.
All right, cool. What do you find to be the most challenging part of what you do?
Well, I mean, I said earlier that I don't, you know, my least favorite thing is like talking about money. I'd really rather somebody else around the business and I could just do the work that, you know.
Don't we all?
Yeah, I know it's brutal. Like it's not my,
It's a necessary evil.
Yeah. So.
What's the most gratifying thing?
Well, so most of the work that I do is made to measure. And that means that I measure people's feet, build the lasts accordingly. And so getting shoes on a person's feet that have never had shoes that fit before, I mean, that's fantastic. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And also one of my friends was pointing out recently, he's a friend and a client, and you know, when his Westerlies need a repair, you know, new heel lifts or whatever, he brings them in to me, like the shoemaker, and I know how to handle the shoes because like they're
that's
like
pretty cool.
Shoes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool like cycle that most of us don't really have the opportunity to be a part of. So that is awesome.
Yeah. What would you say was your coolest project doing this? Is there any particular thing that sticks out?
Well, I mean, I've done some kind of interesting things for film, because there's a big film, you know, the film industry is kind of big in Vancouver. So I've done some cool projects for that. But I still have to say the most satisfying thing is when I just have shoes for a person that struggles to get shoes, you know, like that's, you know, and not that it's challenges. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't know if I can figure this out, but you know, cause every foot is so different and, you know, there's so many different.
Yeah. And every foot.
Yeah. Like literally. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Literally every foot. So, you know, that's cool that I get to do that, but I also got to make some, I had a pair of, Zsa Zsa Gabor's like 1960s vintage linen embroidered boots in the studio once because I was making replicas of them for a film.
Wow.
I had like the originals in my hand. That was pretty cool.
Wow, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Zsa Zsa
Very
Gabor.
nice.
Not everybody knows who Zsa Zsa Gabor is, I realize, because I tried to be like, hey, I had Zsa Zsa Gabor. Like, you know, if you're like any younger than me, you're like, I do not know what you're talking about. My nephews are like, you got me, Auntie Renee. I don't know what you're talking about.
Zsa Zsa was the bomb.
Oh yeah, right? Such a lady.
So you go ahead. I'm going to see if we got any questions. What kind of shoes do you concentrate most on? Boots, loafers, sneakers? And this is from Tetras of the Soul.
What was the last question?
What I was just saying who the question came from.
Mostly boots. I love wearing boots, and the first designs that I made for Westerly were really just boots that I wanted. And so boots are still my like primary interest, and usually it's like a lace-up boot. But I mean, also just primarily just like comfort. Like I want everything to look good and I want it to feel good. And those are really both important components.
Equally important.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what machine do you not have that you need that could possibly put you in a different place?
Well, if I were to expand on my made to order, which is not custom fit, it's just like stock sizes that I make for people. It's more of my online service that I do. It would really change things if I had a machine called a clicker where you get your pattern pieces and then it just like, it's like a die cut and it just cuts them out rather. I cut everything by hand with a blade. So that would make a big difference. Also, what I have been wanting for years and have just never come across it at a time that I had money was a machine called a skiver. And this, do you know what a skiver is? You probably
the person who asked the question has a clicker and wants a skiver.
Oh yeah, well, damn, there you go. I do all of my skiving by hand, which I mean, you're a person who I can't see what the questions are, but I'm sure they understand it's like a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, do you make belts to match your shoes?
By request. Yeah,
okay.
If somebody wants it, then I'll do that. Yeah, I have a couple of clients who like to have matching belts to their shoes.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's pretty cool.
Cool.
Okay, I want to say hi to someone. Greg Pennington, Windsor Chairs. This guy is like a god of chair making.
Of what making?
He's a god of chair making. He makes chairs.
Oh, cool. You can never have enough clamps. Hey, Greg?
You want to know, how do you measure out of-state customers?
How do I what?
How do you measure out-of-state customers?
I don't. Yeah. So my made to measure and bespoke clients are all people that come into my studio, which obviously has been very challenging in recent months. So I have not been working much at all on shoes, which has been interesting. I referred earlier to my made to order service, which is online, and I do have very extensive sizing and measurement charts that people can measure themselves, and then
send it in.
Yeah, but it's only if you're a match to my lasts. Like I'm not doing custom fit for people who can't come in.
So okay, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Have you ever flown somewhere to measure someone's feet?
I have not. I have not done that.
The correct answer is I have not yet.
You know, I'm a smaller thinker than that.
So let's speak hypothetically. So if someone paid you to come out and measure their feet, you wouldn't go?
Well, I guess it would depend on a number of, it would be a conversation. Let's say that. It's not a no, it would be a conversation. So here's what happens. This is how I do it. And I'm not saying this is how all shoemakers do it. I'm self-trained. I mean, for the most part, I had, a couple of courses I've done here and there, but for the most part, when it comes to like the fitting, I am self-trained. I've never had any instruction on that. And I've never worked under a professional shoemaker. And so for me, the process is that I have people into the studio. We talk about all the styles and the colors, or if they want something, a custom design. And then I measure their feet and I take photos, and then I order lasts. And when the lasts come in, then I do all these like fine touches to the lasts to try to get them to recreate what the foot needs for comfort. And then from there, I make what I call a trial boot, which is just like something out of scrap materials, just to test the pattern and also how it's going to sit on the last, and then how that's going to fit on your foot. I have the client in for their second appointment at that point to check.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Then if we're happy, great, I go ahead and I cut into the actual leather for the actual boots. But if I'm not happy, then I make changes to the pattern and to the last. And once I have the two boots that I made out of the true leather on the last, then I get them in for their third appointment and their second fitting. And then if all goes well, then I will go ahead and finish the shoes and have them in for their fourth appointment. So that's how I do it. That's how I do it. I don't know how other people
Are you getting paid for all of these visits?
Well,
that's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. Some people are put off or surprised by the cost of the shoes, but
that's why
people are involved in the process and see how, then usually by the end they're like, and so how do you do all this for that amount of money? And I'm like, oh.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Not a business person. I'm more of a simple trades person.
Because if you have a business
I have
person,
to remind myself we're actually live. This is going out to a bunch of people. But
if you have a business person in there,
sorry,
you know what's the first thing they'll tell you, right?
What's that?
One visit.
Oh, well, that's not how I do it.
Exactly.
I'll think on that. Yeah.
Figure it out in one visit.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That's not custom fit then in my books. Yeah.
All right. Can we get a tour?
Yeah. Okay. So if I do, so I was talking about the lasts. We'll start there because there is an expression in shoemaking.
Okay. So pause for a second.
The last comes first.
Give me 1 second. Someone asked, what's the largest size shoe you've made?
I think a 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So these are some of my lasts. At one time, what I would do is I would work off of an existing library, like collection of lasts, and then just modify them to the person's needs. That might just be sort of like widening the toe box or.
So do you make those?
No, the lasts are made for me, and then I modify them. So all of these, add-ons, all of this kind of stuff.
Okay, they come a basic.
Got it. Yeah, I do all of the shaping. So if people need, if they have bunions, then I build it out there for them. If they need more depth, I just build extra onto the bottom. So these are like some of my lasts, but I also have just like crates of lasts that are all for my clients, where what I'm doing these days is I'll make up a pair of lasts for each client, and then I just have them. So if they want another pair of shoes or repairs, then I can just work off of their own lasts rather than starting from scratch. So those are the lasts. From the lasts, I take my measurements and all of my notes from the first fitting, And I put them onto the last, but then I also do my pattern making, which all starts at this, happens at this wonderful table. And the pattern making is all, for me, it's all done by hand with, like, you know, rulers, tape measures, pencils, you know, very rudimentary, old school kind of tools. And then
I got a question.
Sorry?
Keep going. I got a question.
Okay.
From the time that you get the yes, how long does it take you to start and finish a shoe, a boot?
It depends on the workload that I have. And to be honest, it also depends on the feet and the style of the boot, like how complicated is the foot and what are their fitting requirements. But, you know, when all's going well, I've probably done it in as little as, I think I did it once for somebody from out of town in like a week and a half. But, you know, it can be 3 months. So it really depends. Yeah. So this is my rack of leather and such that I do the uppers from. So again, I would take my pattern pieces and I cut all of those by hand. You know, I have some sort of traditional style knives. Oh, let me just put my garbage there. Like knives like this. They're German and Japanese, I think, these ones. But because I trained in shoe repair first, this Olfa knife is still the one that I'm most comfortable with. I use that a lot, which is, you know, I'm always trying to like get onto these like really beautiful craftsman's knives, but I use those sometimes, but also just my old-fashioned Olfa. And then I do the skiving right at this very spot also, which, you know, if I had that skiving machine, then I would not do that right here. But this is where I do the skiving, which is basically just thinning out the edge of the leather so that it sits more smoothly and you can fold it and beat it and that kind of thing. I have my handy dandy little glue station.
Okay, I got another question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you decide on the signature fold before the laces?
On the what?
Your design. How did you decide on the signature fold right before the laces?
Oh, that was very much, I'll take you to a shoe. I guess it is one of my signature kind of things. That was very much
now you know.
Can you see that there? I think that's what they're talking about.
That's it.
Yeah. That was really.
Let's take a look at those.
Sure.
All of them.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, just.
This was the first pair of boots. I haven't been able to get rid of them just because they're the first pair that I made for Westerly.
What size is that?
This is a tiny. This is 36 and a half. It's a lady's shoe and quite narrow. Let me just read. It's yeah. That's a very simple little shoe. And the idea with that sort of, it's not a fold actually. It's where the seam, the toe cap and the quarters meet. And the purpose of that was to give myself an anchor point for the toe puff, which is the reinforced leather piece inside that keeps this looking like a boot and not like a floppy sock. And so it was quite practical. And the other thing is that I was wanting to work with heavier weight leathers that would take away the necessity for the leather lining that you use in conjunction with the two layers.
Yeah, that's the next question.
I wanted to simplify it so that the shoes would be more less labor, less materials, more like approachable in price.
Okay, I got a question.
Yeah, that was long.
How much are the men's boots below those?
Oh, those ones. This is a pair that I would only make made to measure. So that whole process that I just explained to you, for fittings and whatnot. Those ones are $14.25. That's Canadian, which is quite a bit different for you guys in the States, but that's the Canadian dollar price. When everything is like lining up and everything's going really well, on a great month, I might be able to produce 4 pairs. So the time and the materials also probably paying a higher price point in Canada than you would in the States also.
Yeah. What's your favorite leather to work with?
What's my favorite leather? I like to, well, I love working with veg tanned leathers. It's a cleaner process that goes into the tanning.
Okay. Can we see the rest of the shelf?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't there yet. I was showing you, this was the final.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay. Here's the rest of the shelf. I don't know how much you can, is that the whole thing? I think that's it. So this is my display shelf. There's lots of other things that I have made and can make, but this is just to give people an idea. When they come into the studio, they like to pick something up, they like to feel it, and more often than you would believe, they like to pick it up and smell it. They just, the smell of the leather is just like intoxicating to people.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need you to do me a favor.
Yeah.
Right? Get a little closer and then pan the camera right to left so we can get a little detailed shots of them.
Okay. So here, I just can't see what you're seeing exactly. So I'm just kind of.
What I see is good. So keep going to your right.
Okay. So yeah, here's some stuff. I could talk all day about every pair, but you know, whatever. There's some shoes.
One guy, Mass Woodward said, "I believe you catch me sniffing leather."
This might give like a little bit more.
Yes, there we go. That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice details there.
Yeah. This is a kind of a cool pair of shoes. This was made. I used to share a studio with Kari Christensen down the hall from here. She's a printmaker. And at the time, she was doing this really cool wood relief series, and so she created this wood relief print on paper. Like she printed it, and then she was able to digitize it, and then send it up to Colin Mayhew upstairs, who has a laser cutter, and he was able to etch it into the leather, and then I made the shoes. So that's kind of an example of this building that I work in. I was going to say live in. I used to spend 6 days a week here, so it feels like
very nice.
But that's sort of an example of some of the things that can come out of here. So yeah, there's some shoes.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, they're all leather midsole, rubber outsole. We live in Vancouver, so you need that protection, and a stacked leather heel. So, and then I was just going to show you my sewing. This is the sewing machine I spend most of my time at, which is the Post machine, the first machine that I bought. And
how long have you had that?
Sorry?
How long have you had that?
Since 2012, 8 years.
Okay.
This is a really cool old Singer sewing machine, which is usually mostly used in shoe repair, but I have used for.
I got one.
Sorry?
I got one of those.
Yeah, oh cool. Yeah, it's an old treadle machine. This one, I don't know if you've got the same one, but it's got all directional sewing, so you can sew.
Nah.
Yeah, it's
ain't
pretty
got
cool.
that one.
Yeah. And then the big beast is this guy, which is my finisher, and I do everything from balancing heels to trimming soles and polishing, and I also do a lot of shaping the lasts on this machine.
So you start with one wheel and work your way to the other. Is that the way it works?
Not really.
Okay.
Usually I use this one for balancing the heels, like underneath the foot.
Is that sandpaper?
Yeah, it's sandpaper. Yeah. And then this is a comb that I use inside the stacked leather heel. They call it the breast of the heel. And then these ones are all blades on spinning wheels, and so these are all sharp. You would not want to get your finger on there, but that trims all the sole and heel edges. This guy, this is one of my favorites, is a fine sander, and that's what I use to often for shaping the lasts when I'm trying to get all the nice soft angles. And then the burnisher and the polishing brushes. Yeah, because this was once used for shoe repair, there's also a knife sharpener on here. I don't know if I'm supposed to know how to use that, or if that's something that shoe repair.
You need that.
Also sometimes sharpen knives. I don't know what it's. I sharpen my knives by hand.
Do you sharpen your knives on that?
No, I sharpen them just on these little I mean, I don't, I could stand to learn some things about sharpening, but I use these guys. This is also a nice little spot. This is most of my hand tools, lasting pliers and pincers, and this pair of lasting pliers was given to me by a gentleman, Italian man who used to make shoes in Vancouver for many, many years. And I was introduced to him by a client of mine who was a previous client of his. And he brought me and gifted me those lasting pliers, which is pretty cool. He's no longer walking the earth, so it's kind of cool to have those.
God bless him.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's most of my tools. My lasting stand. So my last would go upside down on here, and then I can like pull the leather all around the last to get the proper tension.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a real amateur question.
Sure.
What's the most expensive pair of shoes you've made? Of course, that has to deal with someone wanting a special kind of leather, a special kind of fit, special kind of sole.
Yeah.
Has anyone came in and wanted the works?
Am I doing that wrong? Like that's how I had it set up so I could see you. Were you seeing me in the mirror? Probably around. I should know the answer to that. Probably around $2,000. Again, that's
okay.
Canadian.
Yeah, that's because of what people want.
Yeah. If I have to order like a special kind of leather in for them, and you don't buy leather in pieces, you buy it in like hides or like skin, like a half a hide. So you have to sort of purchase in larger quantities, and then just depending on the design and a bunch of things. But
yep. Okay. What type of shoes do you wear on a daily basis? They look worn. How old are they?
Those are probably 4 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have 55 seconds.
I'm not, sorry?
We have 55 seconds.
Okay.
It's fine.
I didn't know there was a time limit, and that actually went really quick.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you sew the sole onto the shoe?
I cement and stitch the midsole, and then I just cement the outsole. That way the stitch is protected by the outsole rather than having it wear through. Because I worked in shoe repair for so long, I designed the shoes with repair and maintenance in mind. So
we got 16 seconds. You want to say goodnight, or do you want to come back and talk more?
I don't know. Do you have more questions?
I think I'm good. We got 5 seconds.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Sorry, I'm just useless with these things.
I thought it ended up. We use all the time. And cut us off. So I think we come back on if people want to ask questions.
Okay.
We answer them. If not, then we can wrap it up.
Okay. I just couldn't see you on live. I had to go this whole circuitous route to find you.
It happens.
I'm not a high tech kind of gal.
All good. So we were talking about shoes, the tour, the shoemaking process. Is there anything else you want to make besides shoes?
Well, I have been, I've always kind of made some wallets and little things like that. But I have been definitely doing a lot more of that in the last few months. Like I said, I really didn't work for a couple of months, and then I'm only just starting to see clients again for shoes. And so I've been making some Sling Wallets, which is kind of like a wallet for your phone and your cards and whatever that you wear on a strap on your chest. And I've been making and selling a bunch of those. I still do everything made to order, so people tell me what they want and then I make it for them. But that's been cool. I wouldn't mind doing some more of that kind of thing, and maybe some bags and whatnot. But I've always, up until recently, I've always been so busy with shoes that I haven't, and I've most of the duration of Westerly, I've just worked on my own, and there's only so much time in the day. So that, I've always just focused on shoes because the work was there, but things are less certain right now. So I'll branch out. I'll do whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The gotta pay the bills.
Yeah. Yep. Boy, they just show up. So better find a way to pay them.
At the end of every month.
Yeah.
So I think that's it.
Okay. Well, we can do a relaxed and unhurried farewell this time.
Yes, absolutely.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm sorry if you can hear all of the rumbling in the building. People are rolling carts around above my head. Can you hear it?
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Okay. It's been a real pleasure. How many of these interviews are you planning? Like, you do a couple a week, or what's your?
We do 6 a week.
Sorry?
We do 6 a week.
You're doing 6 a week? Well, I've been watching some here and there, but I did not realize there was that many.
Now, Greg Pennington just got on. We need to have him on here.
Great.
So you need to check out his page. He does amazing work.
Greg
Pennington.
Okay.
Windsor Chairs.
Oh yeah, you were mentioning him earlier.
I'll send you his info.
I would love that.
So we do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Great. I only just came across you last week when I saw that you were interviewing Ravi, who I know here in town. And so since then, I've gone and listened to a few interviews, but I didn't realize that you were doing them in that close proximity.
Yeah, we've done 70 so far.
Oh, fantastic.
Another 120. Almost booked to the new year.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So Greg, after this, I'm sorry.
You're enjoying it? I hope.
I am. What I like is learning about people's journey. Mm-hmm. I've always been curious that there's more than what you see, mm-hmm. or what people show you. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering how you got to where you are. Yeah.
Instagram and like all these social media platforms that we can like present this image, but it's like with this you can kind of like step into it and actually like look around, because it's so much different how each of us are running and like managing and living our businesses. And there's a lot of room for people to be, a lot of misunderstanding about everything looking like really glossy and
yes, there's a lot of room for people to front and pretend to be something they're not.
Yeah. And it's not even malicious or not even trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, but just wanting to be seen as successful. And I think I've even gotten trapped in that, where people see my business a certain way, and then there's really just me like running around like trying to make everything work. So I appreciate being able to see what the actual day-to-day is like for all of us who are really just trying to
make it work
beautiful and to make a living while doing it. So yep. I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And I kind of do my day-to-day, and I share that too. Like I drive a couple of old raggedy vans. Cool. And I show me throwing big logs in the back of them.
Awesome.
So I'm with you. I kind of try to show the real side of it, and not just a finished piece of nice furniture. Yeah. Because with all of us, there's so much more than what we show. Yeah. And I just try to take an hour and get to know that.
Cool. Yeah, it's a reminder. I need to bring back my hashtag shoe guts, which is like the inside of the shoes that people don't ever get to see.
Exactly.
Because there's so many different stages to it, and the finished product is something, but seeing all the parts, the steps that get you there is interesting, and it shows that it's like, yeah, it's a many layered process. So yeah, I'll bring back Shoe Gut so people can see like the behind the scenes a little bit more.
Yeah, just like give you an example. Greg Pennington Wizard Chairs, right? He's done this at the highest level, and he's trained so many people who've branched off to do their own thing. So his impact is worldwide.
Cool.
And for people to sit and be able to almost be able to touch him and grab him, even through conversation or question, is kind of cool.
Awesome.
There's another guy kind of like him, John Jordan, who is a wood turner.
Oh yeah, nice.
And he would be all over the world doing demos.
That's on the lathe?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. And he came on it as well, and he talked about all of these great American wood turners that people only heard about, that he's older, that he actually knew.
Oh, wow.
And that was cool because he brought those people here to us to tell a little bit about their story and about what he did.
Oh,
and,
fantastic.
Yeah, and with him, once a week, I get on like we did and do a video call with me, him, and a few other guys.
Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm going to have to go back and find one of those. What, his name is
John Jordan.
Okay, cool. My girlfriend is learning to use the lathe to turn wood. She makes some hand tools for me. Yeah. So that'll be interesting for us to watch together.
Yeah. And also Greg Pennington turns as well. He turns as part of his shear parts.
I will absolutely. Well, woodwork. You asked me earlier. Actually, that is something that many times over the years I've thought, if I hadn't gone into shoes, I would love to have been a woodworker. I love how it sort of comes back to life when you handle it and shape it, and how it ages with over time. Oh, cool! Lots of good stuff to catch up on.
Yep. Yeah. B. Worthing. Yes. Big shout out to wood turners. It's a completely it's different than furniture makers. Completely different thing, and I try to capture that with the conversations by making it its own thing, and not try and bunch them up together.
Yeah. Fair play.
So, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me be part of it.
Absolutely. I definitely appreciate it, and appreciate your time, and appreciate you sharing with us what you do. It's
been fun.
Absolutely.
Stay in touch.
So again, thank you. And Greg, I'll be in touch. All right. Have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.